Hey folks, Jeff here at Back Country. Appreciate y'all stopping by the channel today. Well, I'm back at it again, working on my daughter's car. So my daughter was driving the car and all of a sudden a bunch of lights flashed on, to include the check engine light. Then the car basically went into limp mode, would only do about 20 miles per hour. She took it to a auto parts store where they put a code reader on it, and the code that she got was P0339. So that's a diagnostic trouble code, DTC code P0339, which basically equals crankshaft position sensor, intermittent failure, whatever. So basically the position sensor on the crankshaft is supposed to talk to the PCM, the power control module, and for whatever reason it ain't communicating well, and so you get the trouble code and the car just kind of goes nuts. So what I had her do was delete the code, disconnect the battery for 5 minutes, hook the battery back up, and that kind of forced a reset, and then she was able to drive it home, and it worked fine to get her home. So she got the car home, and now it's my turn to take a look at it and see if we can replace that sensor. If I didn't mention it, the car is a 2015 Honda CRV. It's the touring package, all-wheel drive, fully loaded car basically. It's got just under 70,000 miles on it, so not high mileage, but you know, we're starting to see some just random small stuff fail, but nothing that's really a big deal, so we just roll with it and replace the parts as needed. First thing I did was drive the car up on the ramp, so I got some clearance underneath so that I can get my creeper under there and be able to locate the crankshaft position sensor. You cannot locate it from the top side. It's down on near the bottom of the engine, actually below the starter. So we've been there before, so let's get under there and I'll show you exactly how to locate it. The first thing you got to do is locate the crankshaft position sensor. In order to do that, best way is put your vehicle up on ramps or jack stands so you can fit under it. And then from the front of the vehicle, you can see here's the exhaust pipe that comes down from the exhaust manifold and runs towards the back of the vehicle. Move that, or move yourself along towards the back of the engine. Here you've got the flex deal in the exhaust pipe, and you come right along. Here's where the exhaust mount is that just holds that exhaust pipe to the bottom of the engine. Look right above that, and when you get up in there, you see this cover right here, and it's got a couple of 10mm bolts holding it on, and you got to pull that cover off and your sensor is in there. So that's about the simplest way I can tell you to locate it. So here's the part number. It's a genuine Honda part, 37500-R60-U01. Anytime you work on your car, especially when you're disconnecting electronic parts and stuff, it's always a good idea to start by disconnecting the battery, just to make sure that you don't have power sources to things and you don't risk shorting something out and possibly frying a computer module or something that'll end up costing you a heck of a lot more money. So it should always be a common practice to just disconnect the power. Anytime I do that, I disconnect the negative side, and with these Hondas, it's pretty easy to disconnect it. Got a 10mm, just loosen it up and pull it right off. Simple as that. like I said, I put the car up on ramps. You can also use jack stands, whatever you got, but you want to get the car up in the air a little bit so you can get under it. Now I could use my creeper, but it's still a little bit tight with this car, so I'd prefer to just throw down some cardboard and use that to roll around down there. I tried to fit my little ratchet up in there, a little 1/4-inch drive, very small ratchet with a socket, and it would not fit because the axle is in the way and there's just not enough space in between there. And even to try to get a little extension on there, again, it didn't really work out, so I switched to a little open-end box wrench, 10mm, and we'll see if we can get it off that way. Okay, so this car is pretty clean, so it actually came off relatively easy. I was able to just loosen the bolts, break them free, and then basically unscrew them by hand just with my fingers. So that's a luxury if you live in a salty area or something like that, you know, snow and everything, and you got more rust issues, then that may be a bigger challenge because there's not a lot of space in there to work with. So the wrench turning can be kind of slow and tedious, but they're not long bolts. There's the bolts, probably 3/4 inch. So if you stick with it, you'll get them out of there. Then the plate just popped right off. Now it is attached to the wiring harness, and I'm sure it does come off of there if you squeeze it or something, but I didn't feel like messing with it. I just moved it out of the way. Then of course I did have to pop the connector off of the part right there. So the next thing we've got to do is remove that 10mm bolt right there, and then we'll be able to pull that sensor out of there. So let's see if we can get that done. Okay, so the new one popped in there real easy. Just line up the hole for that little bolt, and we'll screw that bolt back in, and should be good to go there, and then we start putting the rest back together. Now I had trouble getting my fat fingers down in there to get a hold of that little bolt and screw it in by finger tightening it. So I just put the socket on there and then turned the socket with my fingers, and worked out just fine. Now I'll take my little 1/4-inch drive, tiny ratchet, and put it on there and just torque it down a little bit. Now I didn't look up a torque spec for this because basically you're just holding that thing on there. But I don't imagine it'd be more than probably 2-3 pounds. So, you know, I just tighten it down. I didn't like torque it down so that nobody else could ever get it off again. Just ran it tight and, you know, put a little pressure on it to give it just a little bit of torque to where I know it's not coming out. Should be good to go. Now we'll plug it back in and put that cover on. Now there was no gasket or silicone or anything on any of this, so again, pretty simple process. I'll plug that plug back in and then line this thing up so we can get those bolts on. And now I see on the end that the one on this end slides on. It didn't even have to come out all the way, but since they came out with the fingers, not a big deal. Now I will say putting the plug back on with the cover intact was, I don't know, a little bit of a pain. Very minor pain, not major. Just, you know, kind of got to get your fingers up in there and slide it on, and then put some pressure on it until the little thing clicks so that you know it's locked on. And just make sure you get it on there good. But wasn't too bad. So debatable whether or not you want to take that cover off the wire or not. It does come off. Probably just got to squeeze the mount on the sides and pop it off. But yeah, I didn't think it was a big deal, and we did just fine without doing that. Okay, the cover's bolted back on. Again, I was able to just screw the bolts in by hand, finger tighten them all the way, and then just tighten them down with the wrench. I don't think there's anything there that's torque specific, so didn't worry about any kind of torque specs or anything. I just tightened them down where I don't have to worry about them backing out. And never disconnected the wire harness from there, so that was all good. The plug, we made sure it clicked, and yeah, we should be set. Now we just clean up and drive it back off the ramps and should be good to go. Another job done. Okay folks, other than the ramps to get the car up in the air, here is everything I used for the job. Small wrench, 1/4 inch drive, small socket, 10 millimeter on both, and the part. That's all I needed. So pretty simple job. I think anybody could do this. And yeah, like, subscribe, follow, all that kind of stuff for more adventures at Back to Country.